Today on Answers with Bayless Conley.
I think when we pray, it feels like we're digging a dry well. It feels like we're wasting our time, but sometimes if we'll go just a little further, we may break into a river of blessing and momentum and favor that we did not even know was there.
Hi, I'm Bayless Conley. In life, we all face uncertainty, whether it's financial troubles, relationship valleys, a health crisis, or just trying to discover your purpose. One thing is for certain, God sees you. He loves you, and no matter what you're facing, He has the answers.
Would you find Matthew 26, if you would, Matthew chapter 26. We'll be looking there in just a few minutes. I was thinking this last week about the first time my dad and I ever went backpacking in the High Sierras. I think it was probably 1963. I was 8. My dad was clueless. I'd never been before, but he loved the outdoors and thought this is going to be great. And so we drove way, way, way back to as far as the road went. And he wasn't real skilled at the time at reading topo maps. So he picked this lake, and he thought we were maybe going to have a 4.5 hour walk to the lake. And we got a couple of little cheap backpacks and a couple cheap sleeping bags and threw some food in those packs. We didn't have a tent. We didn't have a ground cover. He could barely start a fire. And, you know, the 4-hour hike turned into a 5-hour hike, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8.5 hours, and the sun's going down, and he goes, son, I think we're going to need to stop. I go, where? He says, right here. Now, we didn't even have a water source near us. Our canteens are almost empty. But he says, I don't want to get caught in the dark. And so right in the middle of the trail on the side of this mountain, you know, we take off our stuff, and he finds some flat rocks and is trying to make this little fire pit. And we've been there about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and some other hikers suddenly came down the trail, and they said, what are you doing? My dad said, well, we didn't want to get caught in the dark, and we thought we'd be at our destination, so we just decided to camp here. And the guy said, look, a 1/4 mile down this trail, there's this place called The Crossing. It's a beautiful place to camp. Get your stuff. And so we packed everything up, and 10 minutes more walk. We're at this place, beautiful canopy of trees. We've got shelter. There's a creek filled with trout. You know, we're catching trout right and left. There's a huge fire pit that somebody else has built. I mean, we were 10 minutes from warmth and friendship and instruction, because it turned out one of the guys that had, you know, said, look, you need to go a little further, was a legend in that era. He was probably the #1 most revered backpacker that spent time in the back country. And he taught my dad all sorts of stuff during that time, and they were going to the same lake we were. So we spent the night there, and the next day we went, and we had another 6-hour hike to the lake. So Dad was a little bit off, but he actually became quite proficient later on at reading topo maps. But it was just a little bit further. And there was just so much goodness and so much to explore. Just a little further. And we'd stop short. I want to talk to you about 4 areas that we can go a little further. 4 areas I believe that God wants us to just go a little further in. The first one is prayer. We can go a little further in prayer. We read in Matthew 26, beginning in verse 36. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the disciples, sit here while I go and pray over there. He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. He went a little farther. and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." One of the other gospel writers said he went a stone's throw farther. So Jesus has been praying, and then he went a little farther. And of course, that refers to distance. But metaphorically, it tells us he went a little further in seeking God and pressing in the place of prayer concerning the Father's will. In fact, in Luke's account, Luke 22, when Jesus went a little farther and continued to press into prayer, suddenly an angel appeared and strengthened him, and it declares that Jesus prayed more earnestly. I think when it comes to prayer, many times we stop too short. We need to go just a little further and press in a little more. You know, I read an article just this week. A guy living here in California in a rural area, and he was shocked at the enormity of his water bills. They were just so expensive, and he called the water company, and they said, "Look, that's the average bill for people in your area," and he just couldn't believe it. So he called the company out to dig him a water well. He said, "I'm not paying these high water bills anymore. I need you to sink a well." And so the owner of the company walks all around his property with him and starts planting these little flags. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, these are likely places where we'll find water, and we'll drill down." He says, "You mean you might not find water?" He said, "Yeah, we might not." He said, "And I have to pay you even if you don't find water?" He said, "Yeah, that's about it. You still want to do it?" He says, "Yes, I'm not paying these water bills." So that they drilled down quite a few places and nothing, and then finally they're going down in the most promising area, but they're going deep, 600 feet, 700 feet, 900 feet, actually went past 1,000 feet. And the owner of the company said, "Look, we don't normally drill this deep. I've already broken, one drill bit, and it looks like we've just hit solid rock again. I don't want to waste your time and waste your money. This is really not going to be fruitful." And the guy said, "Well, please, just go a little bit deeper. Just go a little bit more." The guy said, "Okay." 4 more inches, they broke into an underground river. He never lacked for water again. Sometimes we just need to go a little bit further. And I think when we pray, it feels like we're digging a dry well. It feels like we're wasting our time. But sometimes if we'll go just a little further, we may break into a river of blessing and momentum and favor that we did not even know was there. And I'm convinced if we'll go just a little further in prayer, press in a little more, that we'll see things accomplished that otherwise would never be achieved. I think we may tap into a source of strength that we didn't know was there and may experience the supernatural in dramatic ways. I mean, as Jesus continued to press in, an angel came and strengthened him. There's no telling what might happen if you just go a little bit further in prayer. And one thing I know for sure will happen, we'll fall more in love with God, because when we pray, we're spending time with Him. Now, listen, this is not beyond you. It's not beyond me. We can all go a little further. If you pray 10 minutes, just make it 15. Set your alarm to get up 10 minutes earlier in the morning, and instead of rushing right to your coffee machine, sit at your kitchen table for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, pray. Just say, "God, I ask you to strengthen me today. May I carry on in your strength, and I ask you to guide me, and when I speak to people, fill my lips with your words, and maybe pray for some people and then you might just say, "God, is there anything you want to say to me right now as I commit this day to you?" Just a little further. The second area is with provision. in providing for God's work, stretch and do a little more than you're doing right now to support the work of God through His church. Just do a little more. I want to read some verses that most of you have heard them referred to, perhaps have read them, but let's try and see them with new eyes. 2 Corinthians 8, verse 1. Moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, and beyond their ability, they were freely willing, imploring us with much urgency that we would receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. So these Macedonian Christians he's referring to, they were so eager and so responsive to give into the work of God in their day, this area of need. Paul says, I got to tell you guys about this. First, they gave according to their ability, and then beyond their ability. They went to the limit of their ability, and then they went further. Now somebody says, how can you go beyond your ability? The grace of God. That's what he says. I want you to know about the grace of God bestowed on these churches. They went to the limit of their ability, and then through God's grace, they went beyond their ability. They went a little bit further. Let's go a little further. And truthfully, generosity, especially towards God's house, should be a hallmark of every believer's life. You know, thank God for those that are in a position to give more, but it's collective, what everyone does, according to how God blesses them. And we can all go a little bit further in providing. The second thing that happens is a deep joy is released into the life of the giver. We read from 2 Corinthians 8. I want to read verse 2 again, this time from the Passion Translation. Listen to it. For even during a season of severe difficulty and tremendous suffering, they became even more filled with joy. From the depths of their extreme poverty, superabundant joy overflowed into an act of extravagant generosity. You see, something internal happens when we obey God and go a little further, and that internal thing, joy and what God works in us, you can't put a price tag on that, my friend. And then I think everyone realizes this, and it's a sure thing. God promises to take care of givers, especially those that go a little further in their generosity. Paul carries the same theme of giving into the very next chapter in 2 Corinthians. And I read chapter 9, verses 6 to 8. But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. He who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you always, having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work. God promises to take care of us. And to me, that right there is a perfect definition of prosperity. That you have all you need to meet your needs with sufficient left over to help somebody else. That's prosperity. I can meet my needs, and I can give wherever God might direct me to give. A little further. All right, the third area where we need to go a little further is when we are persecuted. Matthew chapter 5, verse 38. Jesus said, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak also. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. You've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. Now, Jesus began by quoting part of the law that all of them knew. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You've heard about that. And in so doing, what he shares next, he basically takes the whole idea of self-vengeance out of the equation. It's not going to be an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You're not going to retaliate in kind. He said, if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek to them as well. And he wasn't talking literally. That was a very, very common expression in the day. In the same way, we would say, hey, that was a really backhanded comment. I mean, because if you think about it, you can read in John 18, an officer of the high priest struck Jesus on the face. Jesus didn't turn the other cheek. He actually challenged him and spoke against it. The Apostle Paul, he's before the high priest. The high priest has one of the officers smite him on the face with an open hand. The Apostle Paul said, God's going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. Here you're trying to judge me according to the law, and you command him to hit me contrary to the law? No, he didn't turn the other cheek. He actually spoke out against the injustice of it. It literally refers to an insult. Just like when we would say, hey, that was a backhanded compliment. It was an insult. We don't answer insult for insult. It's not eye for eye and tooth for tooth. Instead, we turn the other cheek. We don't insult back, and in so doing, we can bring a witness for God who causes his sun to rise and his rain to fall on the good and on the evil, on the just and on the unjust. You can win the insult contest, but the prize for winning the insult contest is you just erect a greater barrier between you and that person. And perhaps even a greater barrier between them and God. There was a well-known actress had written a book. Another actress that was fairly jealous says, oh, I read your book, I really liked it. Who wrote it for you? She responded, well, I'm glad you liked it. Who read it to you? All right, she won the insult contest. She went eye for eye, tooth for tooth, but just succeeded in widening the divide between them and enhancing the animosity between them. Winston Churchill was famous for his retorts. Bernard Shaw sent him a couple tickets to one of his plays and said, Mr. Churchill, this is for you and for a friend, if you have one. Churchill couldn't come that night. He says, could you send me 2 tickets for the second performance? I'll go to that one, if there is one. Once Lady Astor at a gathering said, Winston, if you were my husband, I would put poison in your coffee. He said, Madam, if I was your husband, I would drink it. Another gathering, a lady said, Mr. Churchill, you are drunk. He said, yes, ma'am, and you're ugly. But tomorrow I shall be sober. Now, if they want to take your shirt, give them your coat. Go further. If they compel you to go 1 mile, go a second mile further. And that actually refers to a Roman law of the time. Any Roman soldier could compel anyone to carry their gear for 1 mile. It was a law of Rome. Didn't matter what you were doing, you had to stop. They could compel you to take their gear and carry it for a mile. Jesus said, hey, they compel you to go 1 mile, carry it 2. You see, while you carry their gear 1 mile, they've got you. The second mile, you've got them. They take away your shirt, they've got you. You give them your coat, you've got them. They slap you on the right cheek and insult you, you turn the other cheek and don't respond in kind, you've got them. It may be a neighbor, maybe somebody on the job, maybe some other area. when you're hated, when you're despised, when you're persecuted, don't respond in kind. You go the extra mile. You just go a little further. Do it God's way. And then the fourth area where we need to go a little further is in praise. Psalm 71, King David writes over and over about his enemies. All the way through verse 13, he prays for deliverance from the cruel and from the wicked. He speaks of enemies lying in wait and planning his downfall. He calls them the adversaries of his life. But in verse 14, the whole tone of the psalm changes. The whole trajectory goes from downward to upward. As David declares these words, verse 14, "But I will hope continually and will praise you yet more and more." I'll praise you more and more. The Hebrew word translated more and more literally means to proceed further, to go longer. Or it could literally be translated, I will add praise to my praise. God, I've already praised you, but I'm going to add a little bit more praise to the praise I've already given you. I'm going to go a little further in praise. I'm going to add on to the praise I've given you. You know, years ago, a tragedy happened to the child of a friend of ours. And it just really, really got to me. Something very heavy and dark settled down over me. And it seemed to be pressing the life out of me. In fact, it was so bad, I just felt my thoughts, I'm trying to move through mud. My very thoughts were just cloudy and I couldn't think straight, and this thing just seems to be strangling the life out of me. And I said, God, I don't know what to do. Now, to me, it was audible. I was by myself late at night in my office, and I heard God say to my heart, praise me. I got down on my knees, lifted my hands, and honestly, I felt like I was digging a dry well. I sensed nothing, I felt nothing, but I continued on. And to tell you that suddenly it lifted from me would not be an accurate enough description. Suddenly, that thing was torn off of me. I felt it when God tore it off of me. I was flooded with joy and a sense of God's presence as I continued to praise. And some of you, you're here, you're listening to me, you know what I'm talking about. There's this heaviness that's settled down on your life. It's affected your thoughts. It's robbed you of the quality of life. Literally may seem to be squeezing you or pressing you down. You just need to go a little further in praise. Just add some praise to the praise you've already given God. The Bible says God inhabits the praises of His people. Isaiah said that the Lord meets the one that rejoices. Just a little further. Psalm 34 and verse 9 from the Message Bible says, worship God if you want the best. Worship opens doors to all His goodness. There are some places, the only way to get into them is to worship your way in. And there are some situations, the only way to get out of them is to worship your way out.
Hello, friend. I hope that you enjoyed the message and that you got something out of it. And frankly, this is one of my favorite parts of the broadcast, when we get to sort of interact together. You know, it's been a tough year for everyone, and we are leaving 2020, marching into 2021. And I know some people, due to everything that has happened this last year, you find yourself in straitened circumstances. Well, hey, let's just go a little bit further. Maybe worship your way out of those circumstances, and let's worship our way into a new and a better year. In fact, right there where you are, maybe just lift your hands and begin to worship God. Friend, He is present there with you, and He is worthy of your worship. Let me pray for you. Father, I pray for my friend right now. As we are gathered together in your name, we thank you, Lord, for your goodness, for your faithfulness. We thank you that this next year is going to be a good year, filled with blessing, filled with opportunity. I just ask you to bless my friend in the precious name of Jesus. Give them wisdom, give them strength, and I pray that hope would erupt in their hearts. And I just want to say as well, thank you to those of you that have partnered with us. We couldn't do what we do without people taking a hold and lifting this burden with us to get the gospel to the nation. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being a partner.
If you don't have a copy of my daily devotional, Answers for Each Day, I'd like to encourage you to get one. It's a way to help discipline yourself to get some of the Word of God into your heart every day. And you know, the Scripture says that the inward man is renewed day by day. Jesus said man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So you can get your daily spiritual bread, at least part of it, by reading that daily devotional every morning or every night. I give some thoughts. We share a bit on different scriptures and principles from the Bible. It'll be a blessing to you.
Use the information on the screen to get your copy of Bayless Conley's devotional book, Answers for Each Day, for the special price. Start each day by focusing on God's truth and building a stronger faith in God.